everybody who is watching this video. My name is Olenjolain Singo from beautiful, fantastic country, United Republic of Tanzania, eastern of the African continent. I'm very happy to welcome you onto our online school that's called the Tanzania Online Ordinary Secondary School. We have a vision. There is the vision that revealed in form of depiction or mind. It has been written on our subconscious mind. The Lord has been saying in me that I should prepare a special group of ordinary secondary students who will be ready to take science educations, classroom instruction, plus mathematics educations, combined with the spiritual knowledge in order to solve real-life problems of the year level. There are some small problems that the continuing students in ordinary level or after they graduate, they can solve in the community. One of our specific objectives, we help students to make sure that they pass the year continual assessment testing. It means including the midterm testing, the terminal exams, the annual exams, the mock exam for the Form 2 and Form 4, and even the pre-national exams, and even the national exams for the Form 2 and Form 4. That's one of our specific objectives. Our second specific objective will like also to train our students, and they should have high expectations to have a good qualified certificate that's called Certificate Secondary Education Examination, right, for this level that will be offered after their achievements on graduations for ordinary secondary education. So bear that in your mind. In this online school, which in Tanzania Online Ordinary Secondary School, we are training students from more than 3 departments. But right now we have 3 departments. Departments of mathematics, where we teach students 4 subjects, basic mathematics Form 1, first mathematics Form 2, basic mathematics Form 3, and basic mathematics Form 4. Also we have a department of chemistry, where we are teaching students chemistry Form 1, chemistry Form 2, chemistry Form 3, and chemistry Form 4. And also we have a department of physics, where we are teaching students the beauty of physics for Form 1, physics for Form 2, physics for Form 3, and physics for the Form 4. So we have also our YouTube platforms, which is a global or worldwide. You can access it anywhere and at any time. Channels. So our YouTube channels is called Tanzania Online O-Level Secondary School, is square bracket Olenjolain. So if you write this, you go into the YouTube application, so YouTube software, then you write this name or this channel, this YouTube channel name, then you can access all our videos of every session that we are teaching. Believe me that in these YouTube channels we have more than 500 videos. So that's why that we need serious students who will take these concepts and apply them effectively, and not only to pass for the final exams, but also to be successful in daily life. So again, we have departments of chemistry. As I've told you, we are teaching ordinary secondary education students 4 subjects. And the subject of the day is chemistry, and the class that we are going to focus today is chemistry for the Form 3 or for the class 11, right? This material might be useful in any continent, in any country, in Asia, in Africa, in America, in Australia, in Europe, and even, but the main focus we'll be taking is by using the syllabus of United Republic of Tanzania that has been prepared by Tanzania Institute of Education. So now let me just give you a quick review of today's session. Okay, the quick review. In order for you to comprehend and to understand how you can get connected, make sure that you subscribe and also you like this video and you read the descriptions and you share these contents with your classmates of the Form 3 and even pre-Form 3 students, because this material are relevant for Form 3, firstly for pre-Form 3 and even for the Form 3, because we are going to start with the first chapter that's called the chemical equation. So quick review of session 00. So in session 00, we introduce the general, or we call it the general introductions of the chemistry for the Form 3. So we give you the overview of general introduction of the chemistry of Form 3, what are the reference books that you need, what the big picture of chemistry in your mind should be, and hence we told you many informations concerning about chemistry, so you have to make sure that you go through it, because basically, first of all, we introduced you the mindset, mean that the vision of what of Tanzania online ordinary secondary school was TOSO. And then secondly, I shared with you the big picture in my mind of chemistry. And then thirdly, I shared to you, or I presented to you, the reference textbook, and also question and answers book, right? Hence, later on, I shared, or I presented to you topics or chapters of 40 or Form 3. Right? So I told you about those stuff. So you have to make sure that you go through. Just to remind you that in Form 3 we have to cover 8 topics. The first one is called the chemical equations. The second topic that we're going to cover is called the hardness of water. The third topic is called acid, bases, and salts. And the fourth topic is called the more concepts and related calculations. The fifth topic is called the volumetric analysis. And the sixth topic is called the ionic theory and the electrolysis. And then the seventh topic is called chemical kinetics and equilibrium, fantastic and beautiful topic. And the last topic I'll be teaching about extractions of metals. And believe me that I'll be taking you from one step to another step. And always I will be trying my level best to convince you to love chemistry, right, for the rest of your life. More than even I love, because a successful student is the one who is exceeding on doing particular things more than his or her teacher. So today we have, I would like to start the topic called the chemical equations, and this is session 1. I would like first of all to teach you a phenomenon called the chemical reactions, which is not new in your mind. But before even we go into too much details, I would like just to give you some topics that we are going to cover, subtopics of chemical equation. What are we going to cover in this main topic of chemical equation? So this is abbreviations. I use E, Q, N as abbreviations. So I'm going to teach you 3 subtopics. The first subtopic is chemical reactions. Why will I teach you chemical reactions while the topic is say about chemical equation? Well, that is a fantastic question. Okay, the reasons is the chemical equations is just representation of chemical reactions. We taught you the concept of chemical reactions since Form 1, Form 2, especially Form 2. But we have to remind you, and you have to build a strong foundations on that, so that the information should be written in your subconscious mind. Okay, so again, the second subtopic that I'll be teaching you is called the chemical equations now. So I'll teach you about chemical equations. Say chemical equations. Say again. So say. So once you say, you're writing your subconscious mind. Chemical equations. Then the third topic, I will teach you about balancing. Very important topic for the rest of your life in chemistry. Balancing the chemical equation. You love chemistry? Tell me in the comment sections if you do love chemical equations. Okay? Chemical equations. So balancing the chemical equations. The first subtopic is called the ionic equation. Right? The ionic equation. So those are the 4 subtopics that I'm going to teach you in this topic. Okay? Again, after presenting the subtopics, I would like to present to you now, that is according to the syllabus of the Republic of Tanzania, concepts of chemical equation. So myself as a teacher, every teacher can sit down and design, okay, or break down the concepts according to the main objective of the topic, okay, concepts of chemical equations. So I break down this topic into 10 concepts. The first concept, which I call the 1.1, I'll be teaching you the concepts called the general introduction. So general introductions of chemical equation. General introductions of chemical equation. In these general introductions of chemical equation, what will we cover? We'll be covering, first of all, chemical reaction. What the meaning of chemical reaction? What are the examples of chemical reaction? Okay, what are the examples of chemical reactions? So this information should be written in your mind. Okay, so chemical reactions, and then I'll teach you about types of chemical reaction. Very important. Types of chemical reaction. Because these types of chemical reaction will give you guidance on how you can write a chemical equation. If it's redox reactions, you know the general formula of it. Then now we'll teach you the next concept, which is chemical equation. Right? Chemical equation. And then next concept, which I'll teach you, is called the ways of writing a chemical equation. There are 3 ways of writing chemical equation. Ways of writing chemical equation. Some of the concepts are brief and some of them are long. Ways of writing chemical equations. Okay, chemical equations. How many ways do we have in chemistry to write chemical equation? The 6 concepts that I'll be teaching in this topic, I'll teach about molecular equations. The word chemical equation, and then molecular chemical equation. Teach you word chemical equation, word chemical equation, and then I'll teach you about molecular chemical equation. Molecular chemical equation. Then the next is a topic or concept that we have to cover is balancing chemical equation. I'll teach you about how you can balancing chemical equation. Very important subtopic. This is a longer concept. It's a longer subtopic, balancing chemical equations. But I will teach you step to step. The 9th concept that I will teach you, we call it in chemistry, I will teach about ionic equations. This is the one of the way of writing chemical equation. So ionic chemical equation. Then the last concept, I'll be teaching you about problem solving. Problem solving of what? Of chemical equation. Chemical equations. Okay? Chemical equations. Okay, so as I said that we have to cover the following concepts of chemical equation. The first concept that I'm going to cover it in this lecture is general introductions of chemical equation. The second concept is the concepts of the chemical reactions, and the third concept is the types of the chemical reactions, because these are the fundamental ideas that will give us a well understanding when we'll be proceeding from the first concept to the 10th concept. The first concept I will teach about chemical equation. What is it? I will teach about ways of writing chemical equations. How many ways do we have in writing the chemical equations? And then the sixth concept, I will teach you about the way the chemical equations are the one of the way of writing the chemical equation. And then number 7, so I will teach you about another method, which is molecular chemical equations. Then number 8, I will teach you the concepts of balancing chemical equation. This is the longest part or concept that we're gonna spend much time there. Then the 9th concepts, I will teach you the third way of presenting the chemical equation. That's called the ionic chemical equation. And the last one, now I'll be solving problems on the chemical equations. I got the reference books that I've mentioned in the general general introductions of the chemistry for the Form 3. That was session 00 that you can still access in our official YouTube channel that called Tanzania Online O-Level Circuit School. So this is the general overview. This is the general overview that we are going to take place. So remember that concentrations in this concept will be concentrating on the chemical reactions, because the chemical equations is just the representation of the chemical reaction. Okay, remember that this content for the pre-Form 3 students, or in other country we call it this level, the ordinary secondary. Here we call it class 11. So now let us go to the business, and I'd like to start the general introductions combined with the chemical reaction. So I'll be teaching these concepts, and I can touch even this one, and that's next time I will finish about it. Okay. So the fundamentals, so we have some few terminologies. The first terminology that we like to understand as 121.1, this is called the chemical reaction. So we taught you about chemical reactions since they've been in Form 1, but we are still learning because we just build the foundations of the chemical reaction. So we won't get confused if we be repeating several times what the meanings of chemical reaction. So what is chemical reaction? So what do we mean in chemistry when we say we have a chemical reaction? Okay, what is chemical reaction? Well, so we have some 2 definitions of this phenomena. Okay, so I'd like us to give you the first one, the chemical reactions, right? So chemical reaction, the first 2 definitions state that, okay, chemical reaction is a symbolic representation. This the chemical reaction representation of before we define the term chemical reaction, we have defined firstly the title of the topic, that is chemical equation. What is chemical equation? You can pause the video and ask yourself this question, and then you write on the piece of paper about what you are thinking, and then you can continue to watch the video to get the right answer. So the question is, what is chemical equation? Or in other words, we can ask these questions as define chemical equation. So in other words, we can ask you to write short notes here about chemical equation. So these are the definitions that we say that the chemical equation in singular, we can define also in plural. A chemical equation, we say that is a symbolic, so we define it as symbolic representation. Okay, because you have to understand the title of the topic. Okay, representation, the big picture of the topic. Representation of the chemical reaction. So representation of the chemical reaction, right? Of the chemical reaction, right? In which represents, okay, so in which this chemical equation, in which the reactants which are on the left, okay, reactants and the products are expressed in terms of their respective chemical formula. Reactants on the lefty side, and the products on the right side, the product on the right side are represented these are represented or expressed in terms, represented or expressed presented or expressed in terms of their respective chemical formula. Presenting their respective chemical formula. So this is one of the definitions. We say that a chemical equation is a symbolic representation. So this is a symbolic, will be having symbolic representation of the chemical reaction, in which reactants on the lefty side of the chemical reactions, okay, and the products on the right side of the chemical reaction, right side on the chemical reactions, are represented or expressed in terms of their respective chemical formula. So that the definition, or one of the definition of chemical equation. Okay? So chemical equation, what is chemical equation or define chemical equation? The answer is, so you have to check, you have to cross check now what was your salt, and hence you measure with what the right salt that you should have in your mind. So the chemical equation is a symbolic representation. Chemical equation is symbolic representations of what? In which reactants on the left-hand side of the chemical equation and products on the right-hand side of the chemical equations are expressed in their respective chemical formula. So you have to remember what we taught you in Form 2 about chemical formula. So in case that you forgot, I can remind you quickly to you about the meanings of chemical formula. So that's one of our definition. So think about how again we can define the alternatively definition of chemical formula. So alternative definitions of chemical formula is very important for you understand it and even to have it in your mind. So alternative definition of chemical formula is very relevant for the rest of your life. So you should be concentrating so tell me the second definitions. How can you define alternatively concepts of the chemical equation? So that in your mind, in this lecture, you have to focus on understanding the meaning of chemical equation. The meaning of chemical equation. What does it mean? Okay? The meaning of the chemical equation. So let us proceed. I believe that even yourself, you spend these few minutes to write the meaning. So in case that you want to offer your free willing thanksgiving to be a part of running cost to participate in the running cost for this program, you may send your thanksgiving through this telephone number 0759745331. So I still have a question. Do you have alternative definitions of the chemical equation? Okay, do you have any? Yes, we have many definitions according to the different resources, right? So we can also have a second definition before even we give you some few examples. Okay, we can have a second definitions of the meaning of chemical equation. So I'd like to give you the second one. Chemical equation is a symbolic representations reactants entities are given on the left side. So we have already defined about this one. So another definition of chemical equation, you know that the great confusion between the chemical equation and chemical reaction. So even yourself, when you'll be doing your personal study, you have to take care about this confusion. Don't define chemical equation as a chemical reaction. So all we can define that a chemical equation is a symbolically representation, the symbolic representation of the chemical reaction, okay, of the chemical reaction in which reactants are on the lefty side of arrow, and the products are on the on the right side of a chemical reaction. Chemical reaction. So that's another definition. Simply, we say that it means that the summary of the chemical equation, we say that on the left-hand side, we have either one reactants or more than one reactants, and then we have an arrow, okay? And on the right-hand side of the arrow, we have products, either single product or more than one products. So this is the meaning of the chemical equation. So chemical equations are consisted that reactants, these reactants should be written in the chemical formula, and also on the right hand side we have products, right? So for instance, example of the chemical equation, examples, you can have a reaction between carbon and oxygen, and these reactions are under the influence or under the conditions of the presence of heat. We call it combustions, and this one will form carbon dioxide, and this is in gaseous state, and this is gas, and also the oxygen is in what, in gaseous state, right? Also you can have a reactions that we call it for instance, that we have reactions between hydrochloric acid, which is common, and sodium hydroxide. So this will prepare table salt. So you have an arrow. So hydrochloric acid in aqueous state, and this one, sodium hydroxide, should be in aqueous state. When they react together, we form table salt, which is called the sodium chloride, which is solid in state, and then plus water. Okay? So these are the some of examples of the chemical equation. So on the left hand side we have something we call reactants. On this side we have products. On this side we have chemicals that we call them reactants. We have an arrow, and this we have products. So these have to react first in order to have what you have on the left hand side. But that is only will be working for the sum of the reactions. It's not necessary that for all the reactions to be in this state. So then, before even we dig into chemical equations, we found a very important vocabulary in the two definitions, and this vocabulary is called the chemical reactions. So I would like to spend a few minutes now, 121, to discuss with you and to teach you about chemical reactions, because these are the foundations. The chemical equations is just the representations of the chemical reactions. So it's better for a good student and the successful students and the love of chemistry, or students who love chemistry, to understand first what the meanings of the chemical reactions before grasping the concepts of the chemical equation. So you have the fundamental question. This is the common question for Olenjolai on teaching you on how you can take the classroom instructions and combine with with the spiritual knowledge and solve real life problems. So define chemical reaction. So you can pause the video and then ask yourself, before even you ask your neighbor, you can pause this video and then you can ask yourself, what the meanings of chemical reaction? This is the very famous concept in chemistry, in any level of chemistry. Whether you are learning basic chemistry or fundamental chemistry, you are learning advanced chemistry, you are learning applied chemistry, you are learning pure chemistry, you are learning analytical chemistry, any perspective of chemistry, you're going to encounter the concepts we call the chemical reaction. So chemical reactions, that's what we have to define. So we don't have a question mark in this perspective. So there are many definitions of this terminology. Okay? There are many definitions of this terminology, but let us look some. I would like to give you two definitions, which is very important. Okay? Two definitions. I'll give you two definitions, and then you can even go further from what I will be defining for you. Okay? So you have chemical reactions. So we can define that the Oxford Dictionary defines a chemical reaction as, we say that is a process. So a chemical reaction is a process. It's not something that takes place within maybe a short. It depends on the timing because of the condition. It's a process that involves arrangement of the molecular formula. Arrangement of the molecular formula. Arrangement of molecular formula. Okay? Arrangement of molecular formula. Or molecular formula. Arrangement of molecular, it's not formula, structure. Arrangement of molecular or ionic, can be molecular or ionic structure. Okay, structure of a substance. Of a substance. Of a substance, okay? Of a substance as distinct from a change in physical form or a nuclear form. And these chemical reactions is different, distinct. Distinct as a distinct from a change. From a change, okay? Distinctive from a change, okay? A change in physical form, okay? A change in physical form. Change in physical form, or a nuclear reaction. Or a nuclear reaction. So this is one of the definitions. But let me give you the second definition, okay, about the chemical reactions. Very important. It's a famous phenomenon in chemistry. So that there are so many definitions. If you refer different resources. So chemical reaction, also you can define that, is a process. Is a process. So a chemical reaction, this the process is a process that leads to the chemical transformation. So that is focusing on the chemical transformation, chemical transformation of one set of chemical substance, of one set of chemical substance, one set of chemical substance. So this is the second definition of the term chemical reaction. First of all, from first definition, the keyword, it's a process that involves arrangement of molecular or ionic structure of a substance, as distinctive from what? From a change in physical. It means that this is called the chemical change, physical form, or a nuclear reaction. So that's the first definition. So it's a process that involves arrangement of molecular or ionic structure of a substance, right? Which is distinctive from the physical change or nuclear reactions. Okay? Or we can define the chemical reactions, in other words, as is a process. So it's still a process. So this is still a keyword. Is a process that leads to, that results, in other words, to the chemical transformations of one set. So we say that one set, this is all about reactants of the chemical substance into another another state. So it's a chemical. So it's a process of transformation of a substance. So it transforms a substance. What does it mean about transformations of the substance? Example of the chemical reactions is this one, right? So the chemical reactions, we have reactants react together and get transformed to form product, to form another state. Okay? So it means that the chemical transformations of one state of the chemical substance to another. So it still continue to what? To another. So to another state, of what? Of substance. So this is a definition. So what does it mean if we summarize? A chemical reactions, we say that on the left-hand side, we have the single reactant, and then this one should be transformed, okay, undergo transformation, right? Transformation to form what? To form product, either single product or more than one product. So this is what we call the chemical, chemical transformation or chemical reactions. So we transform, so we have reactants, okay? Then we transform them to form a product. And that transformation is a chemical transformation, is a chemical change, not a physical change, nor a nuclear change. So that's the concept that we have to teach you. So, before even we take you further, I would like to give you examples of chemical reaction, right? What are the examples of chemical reactions? We have several of them, okay? The first one, we can have a chemical reactions when hydrogen gas combine with a half of the molecule, with one mole of oxygen to form what? To form water. So water, this will be liquid, and this is in gaseous state. A second example of the chemical reactions, okay? Hydrochloric acid can react with hydrochloric acid can react with sodium hydroxide to form what? To form table salt. So this cation, which is sodium, will combine with chlorine to form table salt, and these anions will combine with these cations to form water. So this is in aqueous state, okay? This also is in aqueous state, and this is in aqueous state. The third reactions, for example, also that we can have that, we can have another reaction when that we can say, or when we have some reactants also combine together to form a compound, right? So another simple, for instance, that we can have methane, which is organic compounds, and it's the in gaseous state. This one can undergo combustion reaction under the presence of heat, right? Presence of heat to form carbon dioxide, and then plus what? Carbon dioxide, form carbon dioxide and water. So then the equations has to be, so this is liquid and this is in gaseous state. So the equations has to balance. We have four, we have one carbon, so you have two oxygens. So you have how many? We have four hydrogens. So if we have two, so you have how many? We have four hydrogens, one carbon, but you have four oxygens. So this also should be have two, okay, should be balanced the oxygens with two number of moles. So that's what we call a balanced chemical reaction. Okay? So it's a chemical equation, but that chemical equation represents a chemical reaction. So that's what will be learn on how we can represent it systematically according to the rules of 40 of chemistry. Well, so this is the concept that we have to remember several times. And these are the examples. And these are the examples. These are the examples of chemical reactions. Okay. So I would like now to take you into a very interesting concept. Okay. So let's take you into a very interesting concept that we call the chemical types of chemical reaction. Okay. So the next concept now, before I teach you in detail about chemical equation, I would like to teach you about chemical types of chemical reactions. What are the basic types of chemical reactions? Okay, chemical reactions in chemistry. Okay, chemical reactions. We have so many types of chemical reactions depending on in which perspective that you're defining. Types of chemical reactions. So simply, we like to say this: there are so many types. Okay, there are so many types of chemical. There are so many types of chemical reaction. Okay, reactions in chemistry. Okay, in chemistry, right? In chemistry. But in this context, I will be teaching you five. Should I teach you 5 or 6? I think that I should teach you at least that 5. Yes, 5. Okay. There are 5 basically types of 40 of chemical reactions. There are 5 basic types of chemical reactions. Okay? There are 5 basic types of chemical reactions in chemistry. So you can have more than 5. I left it 2. Okay? I left it 2, which is, I will be leaving. I won't touch in detail about redox reactions and precipitation reactions, but I'll teach you. Okay? Okay, these basic types of chemical reactions are the first one. We like to begin with the common, which is called the combination reaction. Combination reaction. So we learned this since when we are in formal. The second one is called the displacement reaction. Okay? We taught you in Form 2, but we still remind you, displacement reactions. The third one is called the double decompositions or double displacement. So I'm going to teach you each of these type in this topic. Okay? So I say double displacement reaction. The first one, we have a reactions in chemistry called the neutralization reaction. Okay? Neutralization reactions. And the fifth one, I'll teach you about decomposition reaction. Decomposition reaction. Okay? But again, there are other two types of, not two, there are other three common types of chemical reactions which I would like just to teach you, or just to mention, but I won't go into too much details. So again, we say that in addition to the 5 basic types of chemical reaction, okay, chemical reactions, because reactions, okay, there are other 3 common types which will cover them in detail. So these other 3 types of chemical reaction will cover them in advanced level, okay, advanced education or in diploma education, right? Okay, so that in addition to the 5 basic types of chemical reactions, there are other 3 common types of chemical reaction. Okay, chemical reactions. Okay, chemical reactions. However, that one of the chemical reactions we may cover it during our O-level education. The first one is called the combustion. Say combustion. So combustion reaction. This we'll learn in detail. We'll be teaching about hydrocarbons. It means that these organic compounds will consist of mainly carbons and not in hydrogen. So combustion reaction. The second type is called the precipitation. Okay, precipitation. So precipitation reactions. So we call it precipitation. Precipitation. So precipitation reaction. So in precipitation reactions, we learn in detail about these types of chemical reactions in the topic that we call solubility product, and the ionic product. So in solubility, we learn about precipitation reaction. And also the third one, also in the topic of electrochemistry, you are going to learn some redox reactions. Redox reactions, it means that in these reactions, we have something, or we have a reactant that we call the oxidizing agent, oxidizing and the reducing agent. So you'll cover them in detail when you'll be in advanced, we've been studying advanced chemistry. The good thing also, I have official YouTube channel that's training about advanced education, that is called TANZANIA Online Advanced Secondary School. So simply, this is the general introductions of what I gave you as a promise. It's very important for this information are very important. And this is the end of session 01, or session 1 of the chemical reactions. So this is the end. I thank God who have been with me in the preparation of this session. And also I thank God who have given you opportunity to watch these contents. I would like to invite you in session 2 or lecture 2 or period 2, when I will be teaching you now about 5 basic types of chemical reactions. It means that I will tell you what does combination reactions means, what does displacement reactions mean, what does double displacement mean, what does the displacement reactions mean, what the meanings of neutralization reactions, what the means of decomposition. But let me leave the homework, yes, homework 1, right? So homework 1, and this is homework 1, simple. Just the question is this one. Okay, write 5 examples. 5 examples of what? Of chemicals. So this is question 1, okay, of chemical equation, if you've understood. And then question 2, which you have to submit this homework, is write 5 examples of 40 of chemical reaction. Any 5 that you know, write it on your exercise book before of chemical reaction. So write them before we meet. So I thank God who have given you opportunity. I'll be praying for you, and I ask you also to pray for me, so that you may do this business in higher level for the present and future generations. So in case you feel that you want to offer your a free willing thanksgiving to God, not to me, through me, or through this program, you are warmly welcome. You can use this phone number 0759-745331, and registered names is Olenjolain. In case you want to do the mobile means that the bank transactions, read the descriptions below on this video. It means click the buttons which has been written show more. Make sure that you subscribe onto our YouTube channel, so the YouTube community will give notifications once we upload a new video, because the next video is session 2 or period 2 or lecture 2 of chemical equations, when I'll be now taking you in depths of or in details of chemical reactions, when I'll be teaching you possibly all of these types of basic types of chemical reactions and the examples. So then I will take you now into the chemical equations, which the cornerstones for this for this topic, or for this first topic of chemistry for the Form 3. So share these contents with your colleagues. Stay focused, keep loving chemistry, and hence I would like to meet you in the next session. May God bless you.